next few days. Okay, Matthew, stay with us as we move over to West Asia next. And Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian has warned that any attack on Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei would be seen as a declaration of war. His comments come after US President Donald Trump criticized Khamenei and suggested it's time for new leadership in Iran. This exchange follows a period of intense protests triggered by economic hardship and a deadly crackdown by security forces. Meanwhile, internet access in Iran went down once again after a brief restoration, and a monitor group, NetBlocks, reported that after 240 hours of an internet shutdown, some Google and messaging services were briefly accessible before traffic levels dropped once again. This follows the government's attempt to restrict communications during protests, which rights groups have called a massacre. Despite the blackout, reports of atrocities continue to emerge from Iran. Matthew, let's first talk about the US response here. When Trump suggests new leadership in Iran and publicly targets Khamenei, Tehran, of course, treats that as regime change language. This could strengthen hardliners, justify crackdowns, and frames these protests as foreign-backed. Do these words from the US administration give Tehran the perfect excuse to crush this dissent and therefore commit more of these actions that it's been condemned for over the past week or so?
Right. Well, when you escalate your rhetoric, that is always the danger. So Iran could, start mass killings again. Apparently, they've paused for the last couple of days, according to reports. I don't know how reliable they are, because Iran is not an open society, and they have clamped down on internet access. But let's say it's true that they have laid off of the mass killings for the last few days. It could provide an excuse for Iran to ramp up its efforts to its repressive efforts to prevent people protesting against the mullah's dictatorship in Tehran. And if it does, but conversely, if that happens, then it also provides Donald Trump with an excuse to take some kind of further action to bring down the regime in Tehran. So, it's a chess game, and there's one side makes a move and then the other side responds. And I think that the regime in Tehran really does not want to give up power. They're not going to negotiate. It's not like the situation in Gaza, with Hamas, where even with Russia and Ukraine, where both sides, all sides are talking to the United States. They're willing at least to negotiate, even if the negotiations don't always accomplish very much. But Iran is not willing to negotiate, and so. If it intensifies, if it resumes its effort at mass murder of demonstrators, I don't think the United States response will be gentle. What exactly that response will consist of, I don't know. I just noticed there is another report that the U.S. is drawing down its forces in Iraq. It's leaving some there to deal with Islamic State, with the resurgent Islamic State. We can only speculate. Maybe some of those troops will be used against Iran. So, there are forces in the area, U.S. forces in the area, and no one should, after Donald Trump wiped out most of Iran's nuclear program a few months ago, I don't think anyone should doubt his resolve.
Matthew, of course, Donald Trump campaigned on a trail of non-interference into foreign affairs, dragging America out of foreign wars, a long-time criticizer of the United States' actions in Iraq in 2003. How is the conservative movement and the liberal movement, of course, reacting to Donald Trump's stance on Iran in the United States?
Well, they are divided. I think that most Republicans support Donald Trump's policy towards Iran, even though it is far from what he campaigned on in 2024. Donald Trump campaigned against regime change, against nation building, and here he is. He's pretty clearly involved in it in Iran and in Venezuela and in other hotspots around the world. So it is inconsistent with his campaign stances, but I think that most people who voted for Trump, they agree with the stance that he's taking here, even though it is inconsistent with what he said on the campaign trail. As for the left and the Democratic Party, um, I think they're divided. A lot of the Democrats who are sympathetic to Israel are fine with, and I'm talking about Democrats in the
Mm.
U.S. Congress, are fine with um, his belligerent stance toward his belligerent rhetoric aimed at Iran. I think that the progressive movement is, for the most part, opposed to what Donald Trump is doing. So, there's a lot of division all over the place.
Okay, Matthew Verdum, thank you very